Well, there may be criticism of Elon Musk, and I've certainly contributed to that and will continue to do so, I imagine. I think putting his Grok system, the XAI system, in the same bracket as his willingness to agitate and to foment tension is unreasonable. The artificial intelligence systems that exist at the moment and have been wheeled out by OpenAI, by Google, by other companies, many of them actually building on exactly the same access, uh, assumes that the person or the company that controls the AI generation is the one responsible. Actually, the one responsible is the person who is using it. And to use something responsibly, to use a tool responsibly, is the job of a good craftsman. And I don't think it's the job of the person who markets the thing. You don't go to an art supply shop and criticize it because there's been a painting which is produced which is offensive. You expect the person who has done the painting to be excoriated and censured or even censored. There's a story. I was doing a story a few minutes ago about a fellow called Tony Tetro. Tony Tetro was an art forger who deceived the great and the good by selling paintings to a man called James Stunt, who in turn passed them off to the then Prince of Wales, now King Charles, who organised an exhibition in Dumfries House, unknowingly, that was going to exhibit 17 works of art, all of which turned out to be forgeries, all of which this fellow Tetro had said that he had personally forged, from Chagall to Dali to Miro, Rockwell, Van Dyck, and so on. I mean, his range of artistic styles was staggering. But you can't really accuse the person curating that exhibition or the person in whose house that exhibition was being held as being at fault. King Charles is not at fault. There may be some finger of blame to be levelled at James Stunt, who had set himself up as an authority, or Philip Mould, who had set himself up as an authority. You may be wagging a finger at Tetro, because he's the person who was skilled enough to pass these paintings off to the authorities as authentic. And I think we're in the same realm when we come to Musk's XAI and the Grok system. To have artificial cut-offs in a system is absurd because people will find ways of getting around those artificial cut-offs. What you need is to have responsibility in the use of this tool. And I think people should embrace new technology. I think new technology, you can't pretend it doesn't exist. You have to get in with it. And people have this strange look in their eyes. I remember talking to a fellow called Richard Williams, who is this amazing animator, sadly died now. And I got to know him when I was 11 years old, and we regularly met for dinner, often in the same Soho restaurant. And I remember on one occasion he said he was making this big film called the Thief and the Cobbler, and he was very excited about it. And he showed me some bits of it anyway, and I said, well, can't you use computers? And he looked slightly offended, and he said, the computer people, and he'd been talking to these people, this is the point. He wasn't afraid of it. He'd been talking to them, and he said, computer people have a strange look in their eye. And they say, would you like this computer? It can do great things for you. And he would say, it's a crutch. It may be a gold-plated crutch, but why would I want a gold-plated crutch when I can actually work, when I can actually walk, when I've learned how to walk? I don't want to hobble with a crutch. I want to walk, I want to run. And he had got this tool set of handcrafted skills that he had nurtured over his life by listening to the greats, these old animators from Disney and elsewhere. And I hear his voice often, particularly when computers are touted as the way to avoid doing hard work. And when I'm not teaching and when I'm not doing YouTube, I'm animating. With traditional animation, I do it now on a computer, but I can draw directly onto the computer screen. And so I'm not entirely a Luddite. But because I'm interested, as Williams was, in a camera which is mobile, it means instead of drawing one drawing every 2 frames, I draw every frame. I draw 24 or 25 frames per second, which is a lot of work, because the camera is moving. And I can get the camera to move partly because I can put things, I can drop drawings into a 3D environment. I can use the computer. But when it comes to the actual animation, that's a 2D job, which is dependent on my ability or lack of ability. And people say, oh, well, can't you get the computer to do the in-betweens? No. Because the in-between isn't filling up the work that I can't be bothered to do. The in-between is an opportunity for yet another rush of creativity, because the creativity is in the way you get round the problems. Creativity is about error. And Richard Williams used to point to a painting and say, look at the Rembrandt. The reason that's a great painting is because of the error. And he's absolutely right. It's the way a great artist manages error that turns a rudimentary depiction into something remarkable. Because of the error, because of the point at which the point in the painting at which technique is eclipsed by accident, error, and that error then becomes a point of reference, and it becomes the future. Computers can't make error. They can't do error. And again, Richard Williams used to talk about the computer's very good at turning round a warship in space. But it can't really deal with a walk. It can't really look human. Well, computers have advanced greatly since those conversations. And today, Pixar and Disney have demonstrated that computers can give the impression of the illusion of life. But not quite. The computer 3D animated films still feel to me like dolls walking around, the uncanny valley, the feeling that there's something not quite right. It's not quite a drawing, and it's not quite reality. It's something in between. And even looking at at a film like the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, you think, every so often you think, there's something wrong with that frame. There's something wrong with that moment. What's wrong with that moment is perfection. And you don't get that in a traditional 2D animated film. What you get is the Milt Kahl's brilliant error based on his ability to draw and get round the problem, and the stretched hands, the elongated anatomy, the squashed anatomy, all of that adds to the vitality of invention. And it's invention which helps to convince, which helps to deceive. And a good 3D animated film, which was heavily reliant on computers, uses those tricks which were discovered by the Disney artists in the 1930s with their hand-drawn animation, squash, stretch, believability, and recognizing that the only lens that matters, the only reality that matters, is what is seen in the final frame. And it's a beautiful art form, and I love computers. But in this case, Elon Musk, I think, is right.